Okay, AEW Full Gear just concluded. So yeah, interesting show for the most part. I hope you don't mind if I whip through some of these earlier matches. I don't want to be here all night. We got 13 matches to go through, so I'll try to get these done in as timely manner as possible here. Our kickoff show match started with a 10-man tag match, the Best Friends against the Factory. The Best Friends had a mystery partner who totally wasn't Danhausen. It was Danhausen. Basically, this is kind of like the big thing until evil Danhausen made his appearance. As this wasn't the goofy Danhausen who goes around cursing people. This is the one who brings the spike, and in this case, a jar full of teeth. The Factory, kind of. It's hard to tell because some guys are getting into the match so quickly. It's like are in and out, and suddenly it's just back to being like Trent Beretta from the Best Friends. They're trying to set up Orange Cassidy to do the Orange Punch. QT Marshall did get a couple of decent licks in here and there. He countered an Orange Punch into the cutter. Lee Johnson hit a Blue Thunder bomb at one point. He did a nice dive to the outside of the ring. It's then that evil Danhausen came down. He poured a jar full of teeth into Mercado's mouth, and then hit a kick to get the pinfall. Like I said, not a terribly interesting match, unfortunately. Just setting up a unique Danhausen moment, and that's about it. Okay, so after that, our next match is the Eliminator Semi-Final match with the winner facing Ethan Page on Wednesday. It's Brian Cage versus Ricky Starks. The weird thing, I think wasn't originally Starks supposed to face Page in the semifinal? I saw a picture for that. Anyway, early on, Taz offered up some information to Page because he's familiar with both these guys. For a price, so they said, we'll have to talk behind the cameras or something like that. Basically this was a standard. Cage kind of dominated early on. He had a bunch of backbreakers because Starks is selling like injured ribs and an injured shoulder. Starks eventually came back. He had a big claw spot and got caught into a backbreaker again. Starks came back. He had a big spear on Cage. Cage fought back again, went up for an F5. Starks countered that into the Rochambeau for the 3 count and the victory. They're definitely building up Ricky Starks to be something of a Cinderella story right now. I mean, casually ignoring that he held a championship for like a year, so he's not that much of a Cinderella story in this. But, like I said, obviously, I don't know if, given what happened tonight, which we'll get to, I'm guessing since Ethan Page is not a babyface, that Starks is most likely to win on Wednesday. And that leads us to our third kickoff show match, Jun Akiyama versus Eddie Kingston. I didn't get the picture for this one until, it didn't get it at all. I think they put it up until just a few minutes before the show started. This match was made kind of last minute, not quite last minute, but was made last night after Rampage went off the air. Kingston definitely focused a lot on strikes. Both men hit their exploder suplexes. Akiyama hit an apron DDT and followed that up with a big knee drop. Akiyama hit a pile driver and then another running knee. Both men hit exploder suplexes. Akiyama followed that up with another running knee. Kingston hit a big DDT, followed that up with a back fist. Eventually, Kingston hit a Northern Lights bomb and followed that up with another back fist to pin Akiyama. It was an emotional moment for Kingston as he... there was some sportsmanship. Both men congratulated each other. Kingston then got on the mic, congratulated, he's, thanked everyone, thanked the crowd, thanked the Japanese wrestlers who paved the way for that style to catch on in the States and the style that he's based himself on. And then he looked, he said, okay, we got like 7 minutes left by the effing pay-per-view, and left. So, a little unique point there. The match itself, it was definitely the best kickoff show match. It definitely felt like a match that could have been on the main show. Definitely did a good job storytelling. And in a way, I kind of think the right guy won to get Kingston over. Definitely seeing where things will lead in the future for him. And as we now move on to the show proper, we opened up with the steel cage match between Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Luchasaurus. This match started out pretty slow early on. Basically what happened is at one point Luchasaurus threw Jungle Boy into the cage. Jungle Boy started bleeding. Jungle Boy tried his best to fight back a couple of times. He had a nice, used the cage as a springboard to hit a missile drop kick at one point. It was actually pretty cool. Then things picked up when Christian Cage tried to swipe the keys to the cage away from the outside official. He opened the door just long enough for both men to kind of tumble out. Security took Cage to the back, and some weapons then got introduced, a table, some chairs. Jack Perry fought back a couple of times. He got chokeslammed into the chair. Another time he took a couple chair shots at Luchasaurus. Eventually, the table got set up. Perry hit Luchasaurus in the chair to get him on the table, climbed to the top of the cage, hit a massive elbow drop, and then locked Luchasaurus in the snare trap. Luchasaurus tapped out to finally give Jack Perry his much-needed victory over the Forces of Evil, who broke up his tag team. Like I said, very good match eventually. It did start out a little slow, and there's some wonky camera work going on, because sometimes it was hard to tell, they want to shoot everything outside the cage or they want to shoot everything inside the cage. Because they kept cutting in between outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, after it's like mid-maneuver. So, yeah, that's something I think AEW is going to have to start working on. Okay, our next match is the Trios Championship match, the Death Triangle versus the Elite. Crowd is definitely hot for this one. Omega and Pac opened things up. Early on, Pac flipped out of a bulldog. It's definitely the big storyline in this is, is Pac going to convince the Lucha Bros to cheat to gain the victory, or will the Elite reclaim the championships they won originally? The Bucks, got a big super kick party going on. They allowed Omega to hit Penta with a big head scissors. Pac hit a big drop kick to Omega's knee. Omega looked a lot better than I think he looked during the initial Trios tournament. He finally seems to be fully recovered. Another point, Matt, was it Matt or... Yeah, no, Nick Jackson. I'm not very good with the Young Bucks, am I? Nick Jackson hit like a suicidal torpedo to the outside, or plancha, I believe, and wound up taking a sip from a fan's Coke, which, that doesn't sound very good. And then eventually the Death Triangle began to fight back. They had triple tombstone pile drivers. Pac hit a black arrow and tried to put Omega in the brutalizer. I believe Nick Jackson broke that up. Again, they got into a fight, and at this point, Pac tried to slide a hammer to Ray Fenix, and Fenix didn't really want to use the hammer. He got hit with a V trigger. They got hit with the BTE triggers. Managed to just kick out. It's at this point that Pac slipped the hammer into Fenix's hands, so that when Omega got him up for the one-winged angel, Fenix kind of had no other choice but to just instinctively swing down and crack Omega with the hammer and get the O'Connell roll for the 3 count of the victory. So, this was a great match. This was definitely, no real dead points in this. Real spot on, real fun to watch, good high spot points, told a good story. I kind of also like that, the Elite didn't immediately win the championships back. And I guess I'll reveal the other thing now, which is this is getting extended out to a best of 7 now, with the next match coming on Wednesday. So definitely going to be a hot show pre-Thanksgiving there. Like I said, definitely everything's looking really good there. Like all the teams look crisp. You definitely have the Lucha Bros in a very questionable position where they are mostly baby faces, but Pac is clearly a heel, and that's always been the unique aspect of the Death Triangle. But yeah, definitely a great way to get things rolling. Well, now I really get the idea. It's then that we moved on to the TBS Championship match. The champion, Jade Cargill, trying to get her championship back from Nyla Rose, the TBS champion. Early on, I guess I had to point out that Nyla and Vicky Guerrero and Marina Shafir arrived in a lowrider. Early on, Nyla Rose actually got most of the licks in early. And of course, Jade Cargill came out dressed as Chitara from Thundercats. I forgot about that. Early on, Kiera Hogan tried to steal the belt back, but Nyla Rose went after her. Nyla hit her big flying knee from the top rope. She tried to hit Beast Bomb. Cargill fought out of that, actually hit the Beast Bomb on Nyla, while Nyla hit the Jaded on Jade. And then at this point, though, Rose went for a swanton, missed. Jade Cargill hit a pump kick, and then hit Jaded for the 3 count of the victory. This was definitely a cool down match. Like I said, Nyla Rose is a good worker. Cargill is slowly improving, but again, there are just times where she sort of struggles and she kind of clops around the ring a little too much. But they did a good job telling a good story, and this was not a horrendously terrible match, and had some really high fun points in it. Okay, so the next match after that is the 4-way match for the Ring of Honor Championship. Chris Jericho versus Bryan Danielson versus Claudio Castagnoli versus Sammy Guevara. Right off the bat, Danielson went after Guevara, Castagnoli went after Jericho. That was until Claudio and Danielson got left in the ring. And then, it's like they shook hands and started fighting each other. Eventually, Jericho and Guevara started working together. They, for the most part, stuck together until at one point Guevara hit a Spanish fly, and then Jericho followed up with the Lion Salt and clopped Guevara. And Guevara started to take a few chances on his own. He got a code breaker on Jericho at one point. Basically, the big match ended when Guevara hit his finisher it looked like Castagnoli was going to get a neutralizer in. Jericho did kind of a jumping Judas effect to catch him. Got another one to seal the victory. Afterwards, Jericho and Guevara made kind of a piece. He said, and later during an interview where they promote the fact that Tomohiro Ishii is going to challenge Jericho next. That he and Guevara are on good terms. It wasn't it's not his time right now. I understood why he did what he did, but we're still tight. The Jericho Appreciation Society isn't splintering just yet. Okay, so the next match after that is Britt Baker taking on the returning Saraya. Saraya is already in tears during the entrance. Definitely an emotional match, and unfortunately I understand, again, one, because this is her first match in 5 years, there's going to be ring rust, obviously, no matter what, and, they tried to get things through as best they could, but there was a lot of sloppiness in this match. Baker hit a couple of nice neck breakers early on. She hit a neck breaker off the ring apron and went through the ropes. Saraya came back at a crossbody off the apron. Saraya countered a neckbreaker into the nightcap. Sorry, that's what they used to call the page turner. Baker came back, hit a stomp. Saraya came back and hit what used to be called the rampage. At this point, Baker tried to give to the mandible claw, or what's it called? Baker, shoot. I can't remember what it's called. Sorry, I can't remember. An Easter egg. I forget what a jawbreaker. That's it. Sorry. Baker tried to get the jawbreaker on. Tried to go for a ripcord maneuver. Unfortunately, there was some real sloppiness. Like I said, there was a top rope maneuver that just looked really, really clunky. Baker hit a fisherman neck breaker, hit another stomp, but then Saraya came back and hit 2 more, I'm going to call them rampages for now, to get the 3 count of the victory. Like I said, understandable that there would be ring rust, understandable that things might not move necessarily smoothly, but I think they could have maybe tightened this match up just a little bit. There was a little too much drawn out wandering around the ring trying to set up maneuvers that just kind of brought this to a standstill. Yeah, like, because the crowd was hot early on, I think they weren't quite as hot by the end of it. They were pretty petered out. Okay, our next match is the triple threat match for the TNT Championship. Wardlow versus Powerhouse Hobbs versus Samoa Joe. Wardlow went right after Joe after the ring bell. Powerhouse Hobbs tried to do something, but they kind of got knocked out of it. They got to the outside of the ring. Wardlow threw Joe in the ring post. Later he hit a big springboard moonsault onto Joe. Joe came back. He dodged a swanton from Wardlow. Joe had a torpe onto Wardlow and Hobbs. Hobbs got in, got some good brawling with Joe. Wardlow got back in. He powerbombed Hobbs a couple of times, and then Joe hit Wardlow with the championship belt and locked Hobbs in the rear naked choke to win. So yeah, Joe is now a double champion, and he's the ROH TV champion and the TNT champion. So I guess it might be a merger between those two belts. So it's like, it's hard to tell because of, it's still not known what exactly they're going to do with ROH at this point. But yeah, it's just a bit of a jumbled mess with the belts right now. Overall, the match, like I said, had its moments, had some really good high spots. Good, meaty hoss match with, obviously top of the game, big guys like that who can do a lot. Just kind of a clunker ending, I think. I would have liked something else to have had, than a belt shot. Anyway, after that, the next match is the no DQ tag team match between Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett versus Sting and Darby Allin. Jarrett had multiple Sting decoys escorting him to the ring. At one point, though, Sting and Allin used a body bag as a bit of a distraction to get Lethal and the Stings away from the ring so that Sting could sneak attack Jarrett. Early on, it looked like the babyfaces were dominating. They brawled out into the crowd. Darby Allin went for a coffin drop onto, I believe it was Jeff Jarrett, and the big guy Singh interfered. The problem is Singh is so big that you could tell he's coming from like a mile away. So it's like, oh, there he is. It's such a surprise. Like, no, it wasn't. You could clearly see him. Yeah, Singh interfered again, breaking up a Scorpion Deathlock on Jarrett. And then Sting and Darby Allin had to hit like a combination death drop, coffin drop on Sting to get him out. And eventually what happened was Sting hit the death drop on... Sting hit the counter lethal injection into a death drop DDT. Allin then followed that up with the coffin drop for the 3 count. So, good kind of fun car crash mentality in this, but, nothing really more than that. Definitely, I don't want to say there was some meat on the bone there, but, yeah, there wasn't much more than that. Okay, so our next match after that was the AEW Interim World's Women's Championship match between Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter. Early on, Storm went for the Storm Zero. Hayter kind of ducked out. They played up the fact that these two lived together during the pandemic, and so they might know each other's ticks here and there. Early on, Storm tried to go for the Haterade. Tried to do Jamie Hayter's finisher. They got to the outside again. She was chopping. She had Hayter up against the ring post. Wound up chopping the ring post when Hayter ducked. In the middle of all of this, right as Storm finally started to get back the upper hand again, Rebel, not Reva, came down to the ring, clocked Storm with the belt. Hayter hit, let's see what did I write, she hits a big sliding lariat, only got a 2 count on that. Storm hit the Haterade, Baker then hit the Storm Zero, Britt Baker interfered and hit a stomp, sending Toni Storm into the belt. That still wasn't enough. Eventually, Baker got up, began trying to pull the turnbuckle off. Hayter got whipped into Baker, but then dodged a charging Toni Storm so that Storm hit the exposed turnbuckle, and Hayter got the Haterade for the 3 count of the victory. Your new interim champion is Jamie Hayter. No Thunder Rosa appearance. Don't know if ever, if that's going to get resolved. I do have to wonder if maybe Tony Storm is going to win this back at some point, but the crowd was definitely way more behind Hayter at this point. Like, even though Hayter's a heel, like, they were all cheering everything. So, yeah, they just don't seem to be behind Tony Storm as much as Tony Khan would certainly think. Like I said, overall, great match, good fun storytelling, good moments and all. Definitely had some very even-keel moments right on. And then once the interference happened, you got the feeling that, okay, they're going to change the championships here. So, yeah, that's definitely what happened. After that is the AEW Tag Team Championship match, the Acclaim versus Swerve and Our Glory. Early on, there's obviously dissension between Strickland and Lee because Lee refused to fist bump Strickland down to the ring. Also, Anthony Bowens was selling a shoulder injury throughout much of this match. Lee hit a big hammerlock slam on Bowens. At one point, Caster and Strickland brawled out in the crowd. Strickland cheap shot at Caster. He grabbed one of the ring barricade gates and then mounted that up, kind of sliding against the ring, and that would come into play later. Early on, let's see, Caster hit a cross-body into a different barricade onto, I believe it was Lee, sorry. Oh, no, that was the slanted, that's what happened. Caster hit a cross-body onto Lee eventually. They went for their finisher, which I never got the name of, not the mic drop, but that's when Bowen started selling his shoulder injury. After that, after this big brawl, again, Strickland found a pair of the wire cutters that he had used on Billy Gunn earlier to prevent the scissoring. Tried to do the same to, I believe it was Max Caster. Billy Gunn came down and interfered long enough. Strickland still had the wire cutters with him. Lee saw that and he said, no, we're not doing that. He threw the wire cutters away and walked out on Strickland. And that enabled the Acclaimed to hit their finisher for the 3 count of the victory. Good match, good storytelling. Definitely, now we can get a good, strong babyface push for Keith Lee. Maybe have him go after the TNT Championship now, or maybe the ROH TV Championship, who knows. But yeah, definitely we can start pushing Keith Lee in a proper direction, push Swerve Strickland in a proper direction. I think they're both much stronger singles competitors than they are tag team. The Acclaim is much more over tag team, and now they can finally maybe get their big feud with the Gun Club, Billy Gunn's kids. So yeah, that could definitely go well with them. Sets up good stories, like I said, and closed a chapter on a really good rivalry. Okay, that gets us to our main event, the AEW World Championship match between Jon Moxley and MJF. Unfortunately, there's not really much to go through here. This match was really slow, and not necessarily in a good way. Like, they tried to set up the idea of Moxley getting the upper hand and MJF maybe fighting back as something of trying to be a valiant babyface. The crowd was definitely more behind MJF than they were Moxley, but Moxley hit a torpe, got bitten for good measure. Not Moxley, MJF hit a torpe, Moxley blocked on an STF. At one point, again, MJF grabbed someone else's beverage and spit it into Moxley's face. Yeah, MJF in an arm wringer into the turnbuckle. The big spot on the match was they got brawling on the MJF set a table outside the ring. He tried to pile drive Moxley through it, but he switched it into a tombstone and hurt his knee in the process. He just tombstoned Moxley on the apron. Moxley eventually came back into the pile driver through the table to the outside of the ring. MJF eventually grew frustrated, pulled out the Dynamite Diamond ring, which he said he wasn't going to do. He was going to use it, and at that point, William Regal spoke up and convinced him, no, don't You said you wouldn't do it. You know, I'm holding you to your word. Don't make yourself a champion like that. That can't happen. As this happened, the ref got knocked out. The second ref came down. Moxley locked on a sleeper. MJF tried to counter it into a pin. Inadvertently knocked out the second ref the original ref was starting to recover. And it's at that point that Regal slipped MJF the brass knucks. So MJF clocked Moxley and got the pinfall victory right after that. Not surprising that Regal turned. I think, the way it was building, he was like, okay, they're going to turn Regal. And, technically MJF won without using the ring like he said he would, so he did follow through on his promise. That, was fine. The one problem is I thought it was a little rushed. Like, they were trying to build the idea of MJF maybe, again, trying to fight as a valiant babyface and then turning heel out of the at the last minute as the ultimate swerve. But the problem is, one, everyone saw it coming, and two, he didn't fight. He wasn't getting that many licks in. He didn't get that many. Have him get a couple of maneuvers in, a few more, just a little bit more offense would help, because it was like Moxley hit a top rope paradigm shift. He hit a couple more paradigm shifts. He locked on a bulldog choke, and it's like, okay, you're just delaying the. It's like everyone knows that he's not going to. It's just it wasn't working at all. Like, I don't think these two told a good story at all, and even though it was building up as a good, it did not live up to the hype. Unfortunately, just in my opinion, it felt really kind of clunky and again, telegraphed way too soon. Not surprised that Regal, like I said, everything, is booked to be a surprise, but it wasn't because most people saw that coming. So I guess what I'm saying is I did not like this match that much. I know these two are capable of something better, okay? So, again, hopefully this can... if they do get into another fight at some point, that maybe something better could come of it. But yeah, for now, it's definitely just kind of meh. The show overall, though, the show was really enjoyable. There were some clunky matches here and there. Again, I could cut slack on the Saraya Britt Baker match. That was a lot of ring rust. The trios match was great. The tag team match was really good. The tag team championship match was real good. The no DQ, the Sting match was fun. The triple threat match was a little clunky. But yeah, there were a few clunky matches. The problem is, again, match overkill for me. It kind of just overdid it. I really wish they would just maybe keep it down to about 8 matches, and the show would be a lot tighter. I know, again, the way a lot of these wrestling contracts work, you get paid more when you have a match on a pay-per-view, but not everyone needs to have the match, we could have maybe, if we had ditched that 10-man tag, save that for, Dynamite. Save that, And again, maybe just have then move, well, I wouldn't move Saraya over it, but that's too big a match. But yeah, maybe move the TBS Championship match over to that one. I think it would have been a much better show. I think, kind of a lot of fillery points in there, and like I said, it was really, like I said, overall, I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. I am going to give Full Gear 2022 an A-. Like I said, the main event was just too much of a disappointment for me to go full A, but yeah, I didn't want to drop it all down to a B, but yeah, I couldn't quite give it a full A, like I said. Okay, I keep forgetting to mention this. Obviously, the next wrestling show is going to be Survivor Series. That's next week. Next video is going to be the recap and review for Disenchanted. Obviously, there'll be another Men video. There'll be Strange World, the Disney film, and that's kind of it until the next week. See you all next time. Hey guys, remember you can help me maintain and possibly even expand my professional wrestling covers by supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/SleepyTimeForCat Productions. Also, remember to like the video, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.